Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be explaining what causes us to initially develop an anxiety issue, why our anxiety reaches extreme out of control levels, and how we then use that information to turn our anxiety response down and get us back in control again. I'm Tim Box, mind coach, and this is Why You Have Anxiety. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time, I'm Tim Box, I'm a mind coach, and for the last 12 years I've been working with people, helping them overcome all sorts of emotional and psychological issues, and in particular, helping people to get control of anxiety. If you want to support my efforts to help, then please leave a like on this video, and why not subscribe for mind coaching and anxiety advice videos every week. Okay, so let's get into this. Now, when I'm working with clients, one of the big reasons they haven't already calmed their own anxiety levels and got back in control is because there's a part of their mind that doesn't fully understand why this happened in the first place. As human beings, we want to feel safe, and if we don't know what caused our distress in the first place, then we don't know what to do to avoid it in the future. This then leaves us feeling unsafe and under threat, mostly from our own responses. The appropriate emotional response to any threat is some degree of anxiety or even panic. So you can see how this confusion about the origins of our anxiety potentially becomes what perpetuates it. This is what's often referred to as the anxiety loop or the anxiety cycle. We get anxious about how anxious we feel, causing further anxiety and perpetuating the loop. It's this cycle that locks us into high anxiety, but it's breaking this cycle that frees us from it. So what I want to do in this video is explain the origin story of anxiety so that we can clear up some of the subconscious confusion that we might currently be experiencing and start that process of getting the other side of it. Now, there are 7 steps that we've probably taken to get us where we currently are with our anxiety response. I'm going to go through these one by one. But before I do, I just want to address something. If you're dealing with an out of control or high anxiety response, you might already have been given a reason for it. Most people I see have been told they have an anxiety or panic disorder. This then gets interpreted as the cause of our anxiety. I am anxious because I have a disorder. However, that's not the case. The term disorder is simply the word we're using to describe our current anxiety response. It doesn't explain the cause of it. Disorder means a state of confusion. So when our emotional responses become confused and we react in a way we deem to be inappropriate, we could legitimately describe it as a disordered response. It's clearing up that subconscious confusion that puts our responses back in order. That's why we're talking origins today. If we're watching a film and suddenly the main character turns up in a metal suit that fires lasers, that's probably going to be confusing to us unless it's already been explained to us how that happened. So let's fill in some blanks in our story and explain the origins of anxiety. Step 1, you are human and alive. So we start our story already experiencing some degree of anxiety on a daily basis. That's not because we're wired up wrong or because we have some kind of condition. That's because we're human and we're alive. Every person on the planet experiences a whole range of emotions in any given day, and anxiety is just one of those emotions. And like all emotions, it has its purpose. Just as fear is designed to steer us away from danger and anger is to inspire us to take action to right any wrong that's been done, anxiety is our subconscious trying to get the attention of our conscious. It's a part of our mind drawing our focus to the most pressing and important concern at this time. It's anxiety that reminds us to send the important email or turn up on time to today's meeting, or just to check we've got our keys in our pocket when we slam the front door shut on the way out in the morning. Without that particular emotion, we wouldn't care about anything or get anything done. So the fact we feel anxious from day to day is a good thing. It means we're alive and we care what happens to us. So far so good. Step 2, something important. At some point in our life, something slightly more important comes into our awareness. Perhaps it's exam time, or we have an interview coming up, or there's suddenly a global pandemic.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
At this point, I'm going to reference an analogy from my TED Talk that I use all the time about the captain and the crew of a ship. In this analogy, the ship is our mind trying to sail towards happiness. The captain is our conscious, logical, rational reasoning, part of our thinking, and the crew represents our subconscious. It's the captain that knows where we want to go and why we're going there, but it's the crew that have their hands on all the things that steer and sail our ship, and they're steering it by triggering emotions. So when we feel anxiety, it's a member of our crew saying, "Captain, you need to pay attention to this and do something about it." The reason we often have a lot of chatter in our head and lots of thoughts bouncing around is because inevitably we have lots of different crew members voicing various different concerns, all trying to get the captain's attention. When something important occurs and demands our focus, that means we have a member of our crew talking a little bit louder than all the other members in our mind because their thing is now perceived to be the most important thing right now. Step 3, nothing changes. Usually as human beings, we manage that day-to-day anxiety by taking the appropriate action to take care of any concerns. So we send that important email, or we prepare adequately for the exam or the interview. We end the global pandemic. Oh no, wait, that last one. That's an example of one of those things that we can't directly do anything about. It's a bit like when we're waiting for test results or worrying about what other people are thinking or doing. These are things that are outside of our control, but we still have concerned crew members that would love to have control of them, chattering away about getting something changed, even though we can't do that, no matter how concerned we might become. Step 4, one voice shouting. So if one of our concerns is super important and has consequences, and yet nothing is changing, that crew member might start to speak a little bit louder. If still nothing gets done, it might even start to shout. We'll all probably have been through that experience of lying in bed at night worrying about something that we really can't take action on right now. As we lie there ruminating, the noise in our head just seems to get louder. Many of us will have experienced the effect of something playing on our mind that just seems to interrupt everything we're trying to do. It's that crew member expressing legitimate concern about something important that doesn't seem to be getting the captain's full attention right now. Step 5, everyone shouting. As soon as we have a single crew member shouting constantly about a single issue that we can't really do anything about, we then have that problem of going about our daily business in the face of all this shouting. We end up with the rest of our crew having to shout to be heard about the normal, average, everyday stuff like getting to work on time, taking the rubbish out, paying the bills. Suddenly, we wonder why we're feeling such high levels of anxiety about the basic stuff we used to do easily every day. It's just because now our crew are all shouting to be heard, even about the simple stuff. This is why it's often the case that the original thing we were concerned about, like the exam or the job interview or the test result, has long since come and gone and been resolved, but anxiety is still high. Our crew have got used to shouting their messages, and even the ones that don't want to be shouting anymore can't really go back to just talking normally because they wouldn't get heard. Step 6, why is everyone shouting? At some point, we start to become concerned about how much noise is going on in our mind, especially as the thing that we thought was causing it has perhaps passed. This is the point where our anxiety becomes less focused on the individual concerns and more focused on wondering why we feel so anxious. I thought this would have stopped by now. Why is it still happening? I now feel anxious for no reason. At that point, part of our mind, one of our crew if you like, starts shouting louder than everyone else. And what it's shouting is, why are we all shouting? It's the crew member that needs to know what it means that all this anxiety is still going on. Our crew are shouting about the shouting, and we've now become anxious about our anxiety. And step 7, the captain's response. Once we've become more concerned about our anxiety levels, we now start to put more and more focus on the fact that we are experiencing high levels of anxiety for seemingly no reason. It's that crew member demanding the captain's attention about what now appears to be the most pressing concern, our mental health. At this point, we might seek help and maybe even get told we have an anxiety disorder, not only causing further anxiety and concern about our mental health, but providing us with the type of explanation that locks us into that anxiety loop. We start to wake every morning checking how anxious we feel because anxiety has now become an indicator of illness for us. And this action simply confirms to the crew that this must be something to worry about. The captain seems to regard this as important, and this causes further anxiety. How anxious we feel becomes the main thing that causes our crew to shout, getting more and more attention from the captain and thus perpetuating the anxiety cycle. So what can we actually do about this? When we're trapped in this cycle, the outlook can appear bleak, like we'll be here going round and round this loop forever. But the good news is that we can break this cycle simply by invalidating any of the truths that perpetuate it. As soon as we change one of the beliefs that fuels the cycle, we create a different response, and this effectively breaks that cycle and disables the effects of it. So here are a few truths that we can update based on what we now know. Firstly, there's nothing wrong with feeling anxious. Anxiety is a natural human response to something important, and we will all experience it daily. In fact, everyone at some point in their life will feel an inappropriately high level of anxiety about some aspect of their life. That's fine. Let your crew sail the ship and don't fear what they're telling you, even when the concern seems misplaced or excessive. This prevents us from getting anxious about anxiety. Secondly, the cause of your anxiety is not some chemical disorder or neurological predisposition. You're not broken, you've simply reacted to some situation or event in your life in a certain way and got drawn into that anxiety cycle. And I know the fear is often that whilst we might not start broken, what we're going through might at some point break our mind in some way. The good news is that you can't do your mind any harm by thinking this way, and you won't go crazy from excessive anxiety. No matter how bad things get, they will go back to normal once we stop attaching some sinister meaning to this response. Finally, we don't need to overly concern ourselves with the things that are beyond our control. If we do that, we just end up with a head full of shouting crew members. Whilst we will all experience that at some point, what tends to happen is that if we just focus on sailing our own ship, we stay in control of the only thing we are actually meant to have control of, and that's ourself and our own emotional responses. I'm going to link at the end to a video that talks more about why we don't need to be defined by any anxiety diagnosis. So if you've been given that as an explanation of why you experience excessive anxiety, then please check that one out. Guys, I hope this video has been of value. If you have any questions, then put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer all of them. Please hit that thumbs up button if you like what I do, and why not subscribe to the channel for more weekly mind management tips and anxiety advice. But that's it for now. I'm Tim Box, Mind Coach. Always remember to be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.